Okay. Hey guys, welcome to everyone who's just joining us. My name is Alyssa Mark and I'm the Director of Label Member Relations at A2IM. And this is Indiescussion, our new online speaker series where we chat with experts from across our community about subjects that are heavily impacting the independent sector. So today we're focusing on a very important and time-sensitive matter in our industry, how physical distribution is faring amidst COVID-19. We've put together an incredible lineup for you guys with speakers from all areas of the business. We've got label representation, manufacturing, D2C. It should prove to be quite an insightful session today. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the digital mic over to Panela Coolbaugh, the label manager at Captured Tracks, who will be moderating today's session. So Pam, it's all yours, and everybody else, enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, thanks everyone for tuning in. As Alyssa said, my name is Pam. I'm Captured Tracks label manager, as well as a project manager for Omnian Music Group. And prior to that, I was an indie buyer for a New York shop called Other Music, so I have a little retail experience as well. And we have an awesome panel with us. I'm going to go through and let them all introduce themselves, starting with Jeff.
Hey guys, I'm Jeff. I'm with Discogs. I'm the Director of Communications and Partnerships with the company. Handle anything from our external communications to our larger audience to dealing with our label relations, which is why I'm here today to talk about how Discogs can kind of help the indie label, indie sellers along the way.
And next, Tony.
Hello, I'm Tony Kiewel, president at Sub Pop / Hardly Art / Sub Pop Publishing. Psyched to talk to you all today.
Sean.
I'm Sean Rutkowski over at Independent Record Pressing, based out of Bordentown, New Jersey. We press records.
And Taishi.
Hi everyone, my name is Taishi, co-founder, chief marketing officer at Qrates. We have a platform that does crowdfunding for vinyl, among other things.
Cool. And I guess I'll start the discussion off on kind of a broad end. Can kind of start off in the same route about what you guys think. What are the short-term effects that you've already seen from COVID in the physical sector? And what kind of long-term effects do you anticipate? Super, super broad question for whoever wants to start it off.
I'm happy to dive in. I think for us, on the label side and also the retail side, we have a small record shop as well, which is closed in Seattle.
In the airport, in SeaTac.
Yeah. T-shirts and hats / LPs and CDs. And that's closed currently, so that's a pretty dramatic short-term effect. But also our warehouse is closed as a result. The rest of the label function, sales, marketing, accounting, whatnot, we're all able to work from home. But those other parts of the business are just closed pending opening up a business in Washington State. Which is still pending. So that's obviously the most direct, immediate, but it's also affected our supply lines and distribution channels. So most of our primary vinyl manufacturers have been closed. We have 3 different plants that we normally use are all currently not operating. As well as our regular tape manufacturer. We still do a bunch of cassette manufacturing. So I think our only plant that wasn't affected was our CD duplication plant. Also our printing press, where we would normally get a lot of our jackets made and CD booklets and stickers and whatnot. That is also closed. So we've had to thankfully we had a lot of pre-existing relationships beyond those primary partners. So we were able to shuttle around or just double our runs in Europe, where we also manufacture locally for that territory. So we were able to investigate, just figuring out what's the reasonable shipping option for, super heavy records and getting them here in time, or doing a lot of customer service with our website customers, reaching out to all of them to let them know things might be a week late. And it's been a moving target as far as our strategy from release to release. So we had like one record that was literally stuck on the presses. So there's a double LP, first LP is printed, second LP was like just getting rolling. So the jackets are all there and stuck in the plant. So that record, there's almost nothing that could be done. So that one's just waiting while we try to get some quantity of a different color from Europe to offer to folks and at least get something to the stores that are open in the meantime. Anyway, I could go on. There's literally dozens of different variations and combinations of solutions that we've had to put together for different releases at different stages of their release cycle.
Yeah, on the label side, it's generally like the short-term effects are we can't ship records, or we're shipping them much slower than we would. And our long-term effects are, we're worried, will we get back to pre-COVID levels? How will it be affected? We can't really know for sure. It's so early. And then on a more internet-based level, maybe Jeff and Taishi can talk to us. Jeff can start on the Discogs side of what he's seeing.
Yeah. What's shocking for us is that we're breaking records. Not literally, but we've had record sales week over week since this has started. We've had record site traffic, record database submissions. So what we're trying to do is point all of our resources to turn that into something that can be helpful for these overall retail communities. Like next week, we're launching our daily dig record label focus. So we've got, a couple of labels here that are represented that are taking place with that, where they're creating seller accounts and selling through Discogs. So I think, there's been that turn of a lot of shops that might not have used us as a revenue avenue, now onboarding and starting to sell through Discogs. The shops that had been selling are maybe singularly now selling through Discogs, and we're just trying to support that and continue to give them a lifeline there. But as a company, it's affected us in a positive way, if that's fair. I don't know if that's good to say or not, but it's like at least we're bringing this audience in and helping it to support a lot of people that may not have another option but to move online. So it's everything that we're doing now is to make sure that, again, like we're pointing those buyers in the direction of the retail that needs that help. And we've also backed that up by physical sellers, people with shops. We've given them fee credits for last month for March, right? So anything up to $500 in fees, that we've given that back to them as an invoice credit. We have that initiative coming for anyone that gets onboarded. That's a new seller on the $100 range for credits. So we're trying to, put that money back into their pockets as well.
That's great. I mean, one of the things I've noticed just looking at retailers who are forced to be closed or do curbside pickup or delivery is that some of them, they're record store retailers. They're not the most web savvy, and they may not have the best mail order site or a mail order site at all. So one of the great things that Discogs offers is those people can upload their inventory and they can have an immediate mail order website without, encountering a bunch of web build out costs during this time. So that's one cool thing I've seen for Discogs doing for the community that I think is really great. Taishi, is there anything you wanted to add of what you're seeing?
Sure. Well, for us, we are purely online only, and artists, labels, managers come onto Qrates to do everything from designing to ordering their vinyl, doing sales online, storing, and then we also do the shipping on behalf of our artists and labels. So the whole process is managed on Qrates.com. And since the outbreak, we were, kind of really bracing for impact, not really sure of what to expect. And fast forward up until now, we've done a couple of things to try and support our community, primarily the artists and managers and labels. And what we are hearing from the artists and is they're more keen to learn about how to use crowdfunding and our services to diversify their income streams. And when you have no money upfront and to be able to go direct to consumer, it seems like it's a new channel to incorporate into label strategies. And in order to further support that effort, we recently also launched an initiative to give 100 free record pressings to all of our artists that do crowdfunding on Qrates. So, you have another 100 records to sell directly to your fans. We also allow our artists and labels to set their own wholesale prices so they can sell directly to the stores that are a part of our network. We currently have a little under 200 stores, I believe now, worldwide that buy directly from us. And again, these are really not the times for you to be going out to the post office and shipping out individual records. So we're giving out our storage that we have, one based in the US, one based in the UK, that's also free. And so basically you press with Qrates, sell on Qrates, store your records on Qrates, all for zero money up front. And hopefully with the extra records that we're putting into the hands of artists and labels, it gives them an opportunity to not only reach their most passionate fans, but get discovered through the Qrates platform and sell to our entire community.
That's awesome. I mean, speaking to what you're saying and a little bit of what Tony said earlier, getting to the supply chain, are you guys having any issues with your supply chain, the folks who print your jackets or press your records? And then after that, we'll kind of follow up with Sean so he can give us an update on what IRP is up to.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely seeing like minor delays here and there. But we've built our service to kind of handle at least some sort of like shift in timelines and budgets and stuff. So luckily we've still been able to keep our 8 to 10 week turnaround time along with our 100 unit minimum. But for us, yeah, we're seeing minor delays happening through international shipping, costs increasing here and there as well. So yeah, we're keeping a very close eye on it.
Sean, can you give us an update on kind of what IRP, for anyone that doesn't know, IRP is based in New Jersey, and as Sean said earlier, they are a vinyl manufacturer. Can you give us an update on what you're seeing?
Yeah, fortunately, we were able to stay open. When New Jersey closed, they allowed manufacturers to stay open, but we have just over 40 people, right around 40 people. We were running 2 long shifts, and what we had to do is basically we cut shifts down, spread people out. So our capacity was immediately impacted. So we went from anywhere between half to 2/3 capacity. In March and April, we were fully booked at full capacity. And with street dates moving and things like that, it sort of worked itself out. So we've been able to meet existing deadlines for the most part. But we have had issues because some of our suppliers have been closed. So whether it's print, there have been a couple plating vendors that we use that closed. So it's been a little bit of a juggling exercise in terms of just trying to keep everything moving. And most people, a few people have cut orders in terms of they expected, say 10,000, and instead they went with 5,000. So I feel super lucky that we've been able to stay open. We're being vigilant in the plant because obviously no one can work from home. So a lot of hand washing, cleaning, face masks, bleaching down your stations when you're done, all those socially distancing, things like that. So fortunately, anyone that's sick, even like, coughs, headaches, just normal everyday stuff, we kind of no questions asked. We asked them to go home. So.
Wow. One of the things that I have seen in vinyl manufacturing over the last couple of years is a lot of plants having a minimum order where, if you don't make 400 or 300 or 500, you get charged an additional fee. Do you think that with COVID, we're going to see more labels or people wanting to place smaller orders? And is that something that you think manufacturers might have to reconsider during this time?
In terms of, I think it's really up to sort of your current customer base. I think everything has to be reevaluated right now. In terms of small runs, a lot of that seems to work itself out, at least with us, with customers, just because before you even press record number one, you're almost $1,000 in when it comes to cutting lacquers, doing your plating, and all that sort of stuff. So we do small runs. We use a couple different brokers who handle that from a logistical standpoint, in terms of collecting payments and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see some orders, especially for some bigger labels that traditionally don't do anything less than 500. I could see some of those guys focusing on, maybe doing some smaller runs.
Cool. And well, Capture Tracks has worked with IRPR a lot, and they have been really great at helping us out when we need it. Should anyone watching need a plant to check out, I recommend them. So switching gears a little bit from manufacturing and going back kind of to DTC and retail, maybe this is one for you, Tony. What have you seen record stores, independent retailers, and labels doing to adapt? Have you seen any retailers shifting their business models at all? And for those people who haven't seen the chat, Sub Pop made a really awesome landing page that gives you an update on all the all the record stores around the US. That Tony can tell you about that too. It's really cool.
There's been a lot of flexibility from different retail partners. Everything from curbside pickup to delivery. There's a shop here in Seattle called Easy Street Records, and they've been delivering record orders, which is pretty awesome. And as Pamela pointed out, we've made a map of all the stores that are either still open or doing delivery or some sort of curbside pickup, and put the link out there somewhere for people to access. It's super helpful. We put a lot of time into just contacting everybody and finding out what their deal was. I do think kind of tying things back a little bit, what Sean was saying and what Pamela was originally asking as far as like long-term strategies too, and I think that reducing production orders is probably one of the most important things any fellow labels that are out there right now. That's the long-term adjustment I think we're all going to have to make, because whatever recovery we experience, I think it's safe to assume that we're all going to sell less stuff, whether it's because these stores aren't all reopening at the same time or some don't reopen at all, which I think is for sure going to be the situation for some of these stores who have been struggling for years anyway. And this is going to be a difficult thing for any business to survive in the retail sector. But I think, obviously our particular sector of retail has been in a protracted, battle for its own survival for a long time anyway. So I think we do need to take a hard look going forward into just how much of anything we're making. So that's probably the long-term, the biggest long-term thing I think people should be doing, as well as probably refocusing a lot of their energies towards things like Discogs. Frankly, that's been a big part of our strategy, is doing whatever we can to direct business towards Discogs, particularly when there are titles that we aren't able to ship out ourselves through our own Megamart. We've increased our efforts at Discogs over the last few weeks, and specifically pushing people to order through places like Pop Market that we know are fulfilled through AEC, which is one of the distribution chains that we know is still working for us. And between Discogs and Bandcamp, that's been incredibly helpful. And we've been redirecting marketing funds from things like, outdoor advertising. Like, we don't need London Tube posters right now, right? So suddenly, okay, maybe let's move some of that marketing money towards more efforts in these spaces that are still working, right? And now, of course, I've derailed myself from whatever your intended question for me was.
That's totally fine.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that hits on a lot of stuff that we want to discuss here today. Like, what, one of the questions was short-term impact and long-term impact. In short-term, we are seeing a big uptick in DTC, which, is great for us. But I think we would all acknowledge it's not the same as having all of our indie retailers open. It's not the same amount. So that's why we need to consider maybe smaller pressing sizes and being careful. And one of the things we talk about is also like, well, how can we support indie retail even when they're closed, or what strategies will we be implementing when they open? And, what do we have in our warehouse that we can kind of use as a value add for when they get open again? That's a lot of stuff that we're talking about. But in the time being, the support we're getting from Jeffrey is really great. Jeffrey mentioned the indie labels that they'll be focusing on next week. Jeffrey, I wonder if you're going to do anything with any of the retailers that are on the platform, and maybe they don't have a mail order store, so Discogs is how they primarily sell, to sort of highlight those people and those accounts.
Yeah, so we're constantly doing content around sellers. Primarily during this time, we've been solely focused on that brick and mortar retailer because we know that they're being hit the hardest, right? So, with physical traffic not coming into the store, how can we support those retailers with as many tools as possible? Like Tony was talking about, they're putting efforts into selling across us, our platform as well. We're lucky in the fact that, we're pretty plug and play, and I do think that there is an opportunity because we historically have been seen as kind of the secondary market, like back catalog, buyer seller platform, to where we're seeing an increase in those new sales because of these new sellers coming on board, the labels coming on board and starting to sell through. Now I think it's allowing our buyers or teaching our buyers that now they can turn and make a little bit of a pivot and buy those new albums through a platform like the new Tame Impala record continues to be like a top seller across the platform, where it used to be Pink Floyd's The Wall, right, week over week. So we're it's a lot of buyer education on that side. And then just making sure that as we're onboarding sellers that they have all the right tools to be successful, whether they're a physical retailer or an online retailer. There's no skirting around that Discogs can be challenging for someone that's unfamiliar with the ecosystem. So it's just making sure to set them up for success. So when they do onboard that, getting their titles, getting their inventory up is as frictionless as possible.
That's great. One of these talking points is more focused on distribution, which I guess we can talk about it from our perspective, and whether or not labels and retailers who use direct shot think that direct shot will take this time to catch up. I don't know how many people on this current panel have a lot to say about direct shot. I certainly do. If you hadn't been paying attention to indie retail, last year to now, there's a few pieces online about how even before COVID, a lot of indie retail and physical distribution was impacted by DirectShot, who's a warehouse fulfiller who took over for ADA, but they also do fulfillment for J.Crew and The Gap. And so a lot of record shops in the past 6 to 8 months haven't been getting their orders, or, you know, they got a pair of J.Crew pants, or they got a pallet with one record on it. So anyone who feels like they want to speak to DirectShot, do you think they'll take this time to sort of catch up? I know what my inclination is that I can't see them prioritizing us, and that's why we need the Discogs of the world and the Qrates of the world. But I don't know if, Tony, you have anything you want to say about this?
I mean, I'm not overly optimistic about DirectShot, but I do think that they're, since everything blew up with DirectShot, they were purchased by another company, Legacy. I think maybe that's part of why they blew up. I think all they were doing was amassing as much business as possible, despite the fact that they couldn't actually do it, just so that they would look as big as possible on paper before they sold themselves. But that being said, I think Legacy appears to be a very smart, experienced company in that supply chain sort of universe. And while it's taken them longer than I would like to fix things, I do think that they will get it done. And I think that they were at least making noises, and for the first time, fairly realistic sounding noises, that it would take them about a year to actually get stuff fixed. And I don't know, we're only maybe a couple of months into that theoretical year, but I'm optimistic that whatever systems they are addressing are still being addressed despite the COVID crisis. And I think that they also were getting sick of the negative publicity, and they distribute everybody. It's not just, I mean, they're the, not distributor, but, you know, the warehouse pick and pack operation for all of the majors and for, you know, the biggest indie distributor, or which was the biggest indie distributor probably up until maybe January, when a ton of folks bailed. But anyway, because of all the DirectShot nonsense, I do think that they'll get it sorted eventually.
They'll either get it sorted or Red Eye will rule the space. There's one of the others, right? So if they can't get it sorted, there's no way they're going to retain that business. And any business leader within that organization, if they don't pay attention to all the noise going on around them, they won't have that segment anymore.
Well, I don't think the majors are showing any indication that they plan on leaving. So regardless of what the indie sector does, and if they all bail to Red Eye, which, you know, a lot have, and I think that's a smart move for every single one who's made that jump. But yeah, the majors show no similar indications. And I think, given that a lot of the majors are also wrapping in some sort of merch store component to their deals with bands, and those, not only are WEA and Sony and Uni orders being fulfilled by DirectShot, but also are, you know, redhotchilipeppers.com, right? And all of those like band direct stores that they are kind of running and taking a piece of the action from. So after Tegan and Sarah complained about how messy things were getting with DirectShot, I felt like that got a lot more publicity than when all of the indie labels were crying, and the record stores were, you know, very vocally expressing their own, you know, distrust and problems with DirectShot. I felt like Tegan and Sarah got way more action, and I think that moved the needle for them and for the majors to make sure that it gets fixed. You know, the question is just how timely that fix is going to be.
I'll jump in and just say, I think we'll see some of it will fix it out, but just by attrition. As people leave, there's just less SKUs there. And last summer I went to DirectShot myself, and a couple of things that really struck me was how manual the process still is. they really were built for distributing box case lots of things. And the business has really turned into a business of ones and twos with vinyl. I mean, and that is remarkably challenging without a lot of automation, which I think, you know, people like Alliance seem to have a good sense of that, and Amazon, obviously. So I think we'll probably see some improvement, but I think a lot of that is just based on attrition.
Yeah, that's generally positive, so that's good. Jeff, one of the attendees asked if there is a link for guidelines for a label to set up a Discogs seller account. So
Absolutely, I can drop that into the chat.
cool.
Yeah.
And there is a Q&A feature at the bottom of this if you want to send us questions. There's also chat, and I see a couple people have made comments or sent questions in the chat, but there is a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to send us questions as well. If you have anything specific you want to ask us, you can send them as we talk or at the end, however it comes to you. And one of our talking points is, what tips can we offer to predominantly physical labels to help them survive? As there are a lot of small physical labels out there who still do really well in this sphere. We all wouldn't be talking if physical was not important. So what are your tips? Whoever wants to take this question first.
Well,
yeah, it's a tough one. I have some thoughts that I can start with, if that would help.
Yeah.
And I think, the Qrates model is one of the things that will help if you're a small, predominantly physical label, focusing on your pre-orders, trying to get some of that money up front, get your customers up front will be really important. Any sort of bundling you can do with your records, pushing your mail order. If you can afford to do an occasional sale, you should. But I think the biggest thing is just to promote yourself on all the channels where your records are for sale, on your web store, on Discogs, point to any indie retailer, anywhere you can. Just make sure that people know all the avenues, because it's great that labels like us and Sub Pop are seeing an uptick in our DTC, but a lot of people who buy records, they don't just buy from one label. They're buying multiple things from multiple labels. So that's why indie retail is important to them. They save on shipping. They can get a bunch of stuff at once. So
I wonder, Tony and Pam, if that's an opportunity for some of these larger online retailers that have something like kind of indie integrity, like Rough Trade or like Turntable Lab, an opportunity for them to expand to possibly be like a D2C representative for a Sub Pop or for Capture Tracks, if there's an opportunity there for them to move into that space a bit more than they have been in the past. Because I know that they've had variants that have been exclusive to them, but I'm wondering if that might be something that people are looking at.
I mean, well, that's sort of the map that we made, was our effort to redirect stuff towards those stores, and then also our efforts within Discogs is, rather than fulfilling through our D2C or what we call our Mega Mart, rather than directing stuff through those channels, directing them through the independent retail channels. And Jeff, I think, was referencing, we do, as just a normal part of our business, we've always made one color LP variant that was exclusively available to our indie retail partners. So folks like Rough Trade, basically stores that buy direct from Sub Pop. We not only put our records through distribution channels, but we also have our own warehouse and direct sales team. So, we've always tried to come up with reasons to incentivize folks to use those independent stores and to shop at them regularly, because they're an incredibly important part of not only our business, but I think the culture, and it's that sort of experience and hand selling that happens in that space that has been super important to the history of our label and the bands that we work with. So we're very concerned about making sure that they survive this time, and we're always looking for new and more things that we can do to sort of lend a hand, and that's been true, like I said, for years now, just because of the trends and we, again, not to, derail this whole thing, but because of the way that, because of the prevalence of Spotify and Apple Music and streaming networks, and because the most popular genres of music in the world now maybe don't even make physical product at all, let alone a special variant that's only available at those stores. We're seeing that entire sector just left out, right? They're not even allowed to participate in those releases by virtue of there not being a physical product. So, I'm very worried about this current situation. And I think, between the record stores and the music venues, and not to mention, the artists who are reliant on touring for their survival, this is a real scary time, and it's going to take a long time to recover, and a lot of our partners in this business won't. So, I think whatever we can do, if you're in a fortunate position to be able to work from home, whatever we can do to help them either sell their stock through Discogs or whatever other channels might be available to them, whether they're doing delivery or curbside pickup or what have you. I think all of the record label community, and artists and whoever is pushing for their record to be noticed and sold, should definitely prioritize making folks aware of the options that are local to them and their local indie record shops.
That's a great point. And I think we would all agree, yeah, we are all one big community. It's not just ETC, it's not just indie retail. We have to focus on both of them and how we can help them both. And why DTC is lending us a hand right now in the online marketplaces, we need to do what we can to make sure that they both exist. We've got a couple tough questions in the chat. One is about how much the economy will be affected and how much physical business will be affected in 2020 and in the future, and if we have any projections. I'll just say I think it's a little early for us to have data to do projections in this way. Maybe you're hearing the ice cream truck coming down my street, sorry. So I don't have any specific projections at this moment. It still seems like everything's very uncertain. I don't know if any of you guys have any projections you want to share about your business, but
this is pure gut check, but I would assume that you're going to see at least a 25% reduction in revenues. And again, this is almost pure gut check on my part. That being said, I think we can all, on the label side of the business anyway, expect to see expenses go down, hopefully a commensurate amount, but maybe not. Obviously, there's no travel budgets right now. There's no tour support. There's no outdoor advertising. There's a lot of things that we are spending a lot less on, and not just redirecting towards Spotify advertising or YouTube ads or whatever. So I'm hoping that that it all sort of balances out. But I think it obviously everybody is experiencing a severe drop-off in physical business right now, right? And I think it's safe to assume that we're going to see, some level of diminished physical sales for at least a year, and hopefully gradually increasing as time goes on. But again, I think a lot of that's going to be dependent on how many stores survive, when bands can get on the road again, because I know, some of our biggest outlets for physical sales are the merch table, right? Like we do a significant amount of business just as bands merch on tour. So that being a missing part of the equation, that alone would impact our quantities of what we're ordering to be produced. So when you factor that in on top of, you know, what's happening in the retail sector, you know, that's a big part of us recalculating all of our production runs going forward. And I would suggest that everybody should be looking at least a few months into the future and just making sure that your business can withstand, you know, making a significant percentage less per month. And now we're in a great position as businesses to have a fair number of weeks behind us. If you're in a state like we are, that's been, you know, on lockdown for a while, you probably should have enough data to be able to kind of take a hard look at what's been happening and what's likely to continue to happen. And I would encourage everyone to do so if you haven't.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've been seeing such a huge jump in orders placed, people adding items, records to their collections on Discogs, onto their want list on Discogs, and it kind of gives me hope that those physical music lovers are going to support the format more than anything else. And when they do get the opportunity to go back to the record store, that they're going to want to experience that connection there. That's the thing that ultimately brings me back to, it's like, yeah, undoubtedly there'll be a hit. But you know, how great will that be? It's a little hard to project, but you know, based off our numbers, what we're seeing and people's need to have music in their lives, you know, I would think that the physical format rebounds quicker. But Tony, you're right. When it comes to the music venues, the live, it's like, that's the biggest unknown. It's like, when do we get back to being able to go to like a 200 cap room and throwing, you know, $30 at a band for a record on the way out the door? That's the scary part for me, for sure.
When those people who, and we haven't even touched on the unemployment factor of all this, that like the people who work in those venues are all music lovers, probably why they would want that job in the first place. And those are exactly the people who are not going to probably be gainfully employed for several months to a year in the future. So those are all people who we can expect to be making less purchases. So I see, not only do we have a problem with retail and band merch, but we also have a customer problem that probably 20%, and I think maybe higher than the national percentages within our community, are exactly the people who are going to be out of work and less likely to buy fun stuff like records, right? So I'm concerned as well about, I feel like it's entirely likely we see a 30% drop in the number of consumers able to afford records this year. Again,
I don't know, man. I've sometimes chosen buying a record over a beer or food.
For eating or food.
Yeah, or eating. Yeah, I've lived on ramen in my life. So
I think it's clear that we'll all be paying very close attention and just seeing how this plays out over the next couple of months. I've gotten a few questions, a few people kind of asking the same question. On the label side, are we seeing release plans change? And with record stores not being open, the options of co-op advertising with those stores are non-existent. So what are our marketing options? I think Tony touched on it earlier a little bit with, you know, kind of pushing your marketing to your outdoor marketing and stuff you would spend to other areas. Discogs has a marketing menu that you can use, artist alerts, to alert anyone about an upcoming release who likes a certain artist or your artist or has something in their collection already. So, and I've seen a few record shops have kind of a online banner ad program and stuff like that. I don't, you know, if they're seeing increased traffic, like that could be pretty effective for you to kind of move your money there. But I think the kind of thesis of where we're at is all of our old rules are out the window. And, we don't have to, not have to, but we can't stick to the same way we would have released a record before. As a label, we have constant discussions about being a lot more creative. The ice cream truck is back. To the guy who asked why there's an ice cream truck, I agree with you. No one is queuing. He's just driving around. But anyways, going back, all of our old rules are out the window. And we're a creative industry full of creative people, and finding creative ways to market our things the best way that we can. So our label philosophy hasn't been to stop what we're doing. It's just been to realize this is the situation we're in. What things can we do? What's the best way? If we're making something, evaluating the numbers, making sure it's special and we feel like it deserves to be made, moving our advertising budget around. We always make sure on our pre-order pages to have a map of any local record store or local retailer who's carrying it, like making sure those go to the top of any digital marketing we're doing is important. I don't know if you guys want to add if you're changing how you're putting out records, or Jeff, if you're seeing how people market on Discogs, if you're seeing them do anything different.
Yeah, we've undoubtedly, put together a set of tools that can be pretty impactful for the labels to reach those physical music fans that have that buying behavior, like first and foremost, like front of mind, right? And but instead of me hawking what that stuff is, it really, I think you hit a pretty strong point there, where it's like it's an opportunity for all of us to kind of rethink how we do things. Because I know it's always felt like in building out what we build as far as how labels interact with us and use us as a tool to find buyers, it's always been interesting to look back and see how physical music has been marketed. It hasn't really changed a lot since the 90s and the aughts into the 10s, where it's like there's still that same mentality of doing things kind of the same way. And maybe this allows everyone to kind of turn around and find those new ways to engage and find new customers, or a more efficient, frictionless way to find them. I don't know. Tony, do you have any?
Can I?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Tony, what you said about, bracing for impact on how physical sales will take a hit, that's a reality that we all should really have to, face. And since building Qrates, launching in 2015, we've seen a lot of iterations, how people have kind of evolved their way of thinking about physical, because there's a lot of things to think about, even building our internal systems, having to speak with artists, customers, warehouse, manufacturing, shipping, and warehousing. There's a lot of parts. And suddenly when you can offset some of those challenges to people like D2C platforms like us, you can get creative with how you sell. And on Qrates, I wanted to share on how, what I thought was kind of interesting on how labels are doing this. And like how, Discogs allows unique ways to find buyers. I think people on Qrates are figuring out their own ways to find their own facilitators of who are going to bring in more fans for themselves. For example, we're seeing individuals that are just influencers, curators, use Qrates to reach out to their artist buddies, put out compilations. Big YouTube channels have been doing this really successfully on Qrates. The whole lo-fi beat scene is really thriving on Qrates for this fact. Also, record stores that have those, they know the customers, they know the artists in many cases, and they're in a position to be able to put out records themselves and reach out to both parties, the customer and the artists, to put out these kind of local centric releases. And it's a new way of thinking about how to offset that 30% hit. But by being able to not having to figure out the entire wheel, you're able to focus on some of these creative ways to offset some of those impacts on sales. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll see, you know, a lot of that stuff pop up. Like, how can we be more creative? Services like Qrates who offer you solutions to problems you have or something you're seeing. Or that's the hope. And a few people have asked, oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was gonna add one more thing. It's really, what's great to see on Qrates is that the loyalty from the fans to the artists have not really wavered. Artists that have come back on Qrates for their second, third, 10th release, you know, are continuing to be able to reach their pledge goals, sell hundreds, thousands of records through Qrates during this time as well. So to be pessimistic about, you know, how customers will be really, you know, tight with their wallets, you know, as a label and as a content creator, I can understand how you can be very worried about that, but the numbers on Qrates at least have shown that, you know, the loyalty is very much strong and still there.
That's great. And a few people are asking about release dates and pushing them all back and whether we should all do that. I know that's a big question on everyone's mind. I think, you know, if everyone does that, then we are going to see the opposite of the problem we're having now. And people like Sean will get all the orders at once instead of being able to space them out. So I don't necessarily think the answer is to push all of your releases back. I think it's to be creative with what you're doing and believe in what you're doing, and your old rules are gone and make up new ones. Or else everyone will be putting on a record at the same time, especially if you're trying to do a physical record. There's a couple other questions here. Do you think this is the straw that broke the brick and mortar retail, and that to survive with physical sales, you will need a strong pivot to DTC? And in the long run, that will increase revenue for small to mid-sized labels. This is a big question. We've hit on it a little bit in what we've talked about. And as Jeff has shown, Discogs, you know, has seen a big uptick in users and revenue coming in. But as we've also talked about, it's not going to be equal to your DTC plus indie retailers. I hope this isn't the straw that breaks brick and mortar retail, though, as Tony has said as well, some of them will not come back and we are going to take a hit. I don't know if you guys want to add.
I think, you know, the smart business owners have learned, right? There's, you know, I'm a big fan of Guest Room Records. It's a couple of blocks, you know, away from me where I live in Louisville. And they didn't have an online presence and they weren't selling on Discogs. And I think that they learned very quickly that that online presence was important. And I'm sure that they'll carry that moving forward. You know, it's just basic diversification of revenue streams, right? They may be selling the same product, but, you know, making sure to keep that online presence healthy is, you know, going to be a reality for a lot of these physical retailers. And, you know, some of them have learned that maybe the system that they were using wasn't working efficiently or working in the way that they need. You know, I do think moving forward that everyone's going to need to embrace that on some level, whether they want to or not.
I mean, I'll jump in and just say, I feel like for the last 20 years, something has been going to break the straw in the independent retail sector's back, whether it's Best Buy, then Apple and Amazon and whatnot. And I think, you know, like there'll definitely be people that will fall away from this, but I think the good stores and the smart business owners are going to figure out a way to actually come out of this stronger.
Yay, I agree.
I do think it's a good idea. If you haven't developed a D2C business for yourself, you very much should. And this is a great opportunity. If you are fortunate to have all of this chaos create extra time for you, as I know is the case for some folks, I would use that to figure out a D2C solution. And there's a bunch. Obviously, Discogs has a really great way to get your stuff up. You know, Bandcamp has been a great partner for us as well. You can set up a, you know, Merch Lackey or Shopify store if you want to, if you've got enough business to warrant something at that level. That also comes with some added benefits of being able to kind of flip switches, so to speak, and make your stuff present in other venues like Amazon and whatnot. That comes with a lot of baggage that I don't recommend anybody dive into immediately. But like I said, there's a lot you can do in that space, and you for sure should, whether or not coronavirus is a factor.
Yeah, please give me a call before you decide to jump into Amazon.
Yeah. A lot of penalties and a lot of rules, and they take huge cuts. It's really, it's not for the faint of heart at all. And honestly, if we weren't engaged with like t-shirts and stuff, I don't know that. Anyway, don't do it. Probably.
Probably. This is a question that really hits our topic, especially physical distro. Hi all, my biggest question is, how on earth are physical record distributors who sell my labels or releases to stores around the world, like Revolver in San Francisco, going to survive this? It's from Pete at Slovenly. I have some great 7-inches from Slovenly. If you don't know them, check them out. They are very cool. Physical distro. We have all seen it be impacted. I think for a lot of labels, our April release dates were canceled. I see it coming back. I see companies like Record Store Day doing their best to help throughout the year as they can. But like Tony said, it's going to take a hit, and we'll only know what that hit is over time. A lot of our distributors are still running. I don't know if anyone has different experiences. Obviously, Sub Pop's Megamart is currently closed, and that doesn't go through a distributor, but I just think it will be something we watch over time, how they're affected. Our distributor has been so proactive about what we can be doing, talking to retailers all the time, and just seeing what they're going through.
Well, and the distributors have been going bankrupt
for years.
Forever. I mean, and not, again, I think whatever's going on now is just a magnified version of what's been going on anyway. Just in my time at Sub Pop, I've seen, you know, we've dealt with several distributors going bankrupt over the years in various territories, and it's messy business. And frankly, when you look at the math of that business, it feels like probably more should be going bankrupt than even are, because it's a tough segment, and is fraught with even more peril than it was, you know, a year ago.
I'm reviewing our questions. Someone asked about digital scarcity. I'm going to keep our focus on physical distribution because that's the focus of this panel, but I'm sure A2IM will do some sort of panel on digital.
But I would disagree with that premise of the question, because I don't think that vinyl's value is in its scarcity. To keep it to the physical side of the question, I think vinyl's value is in, well, you might be an audiophile who actually has an aesthetic appreciation for the audible effect of that format. I think there's also a lot to be said for it as almost a fetish object. Like there's just that tactile interaction and the liner notes and the jackets, and it's just a fun thing to play with. But I know for me, it's been a difficult transition that I'm not wholly comfortable with even myself yet, that to kind of divorcing my understanding of a record as a music delivery device, and understanding that for a lot of our customer base, it's a collectible that's associated with the music that they're listening to elsewhere, which again, a lot of people still listen to their records, but we also have a substantial amount of research that indicates that the majority of records go unopened. And that is distressing to me personally, frankly, but is also just the reality of the situation, that a lot of people are treating these as like, you know, baseball cards or something. So anyway, and maybe there is maybe it's that collectability, maybe there's scarcity of it is kind of what your point is in your question. But I think that digital's value is in the fact that there's no scarcity. It's ubiquity that makes it useful, and it's that which has made it even more useful right now, as that particular revenue stream goes uninterrupted because of its ubiquitousness. I feel like I'm using ubiquitous a lot. Is there another word for the opposite of scarce? I don't know.
Ubiquitous is a good word. A lot.
Lots.
A lot. Everywhere. Just everywhere. I don't know.
Abundant. Thank you, Mike.
There you go.
So Tony, to your point, do you feel like that's interesting? If you ever could share that research about the unopened music, like record, I would love to see that. However, do you feel like maybe this time at home might cause us to be more engaged and then turn around and go, look, there are those records that I've not played yet. You know, if I were to remove my A2IM screen, there's just a ton of records behind me, and I'm undoubtedly at fault for not playing all of them, right? So I've been doing that very thing, is going through and pulling records out that I haven't listened to or that I haven't had time to spend with them. It's like, I'm wondering if that might end up happening a bit, where we end up having a more engaged fan base of listeners that you know, want to spend the time to put that record on and like actually take it in, rather than, you know, running around, you know, their neighborhood with whatever, you know, Spotify's 150 BPM playlist, which I run to. And I have no idea what the bands are that are on that playlist, so it just kind of goes in and out of my head.
Yeah, I certainly hope that's the case, but then the question is like, well, is it like jigsaw puzzles, which they're fun right now, but it's unlikely that people are gonna, like, are we gonna see a dramatic uptick in jigsaw puzzle aficionados post-COVID quarantine? I mean, maybe, but my hope for vinyl is that the relationship goes a bit deeper. I don't know. I mean, yeah, if there is a silver lining to all this, it's that people are re-engaging with their records, and they are fun. That's what I like about them. But then I also get disheartened when I start to imagine how many of those people are at home using, you know, Crosley turntables that sound like crap, and, you know, like they're not even, whatever their home experience is probably not what we would hope it would be too, right? This is constantly infuriating for me, and I bet Sean probably has similar, but we put so much time and energy into QCing these records, and then, you know, I see people walking out with a Crosley turntable under their arm and, you know, and a pile of records that they spend an exorbitant amount of money on, right? Records are expensive to make, legitimately, right? But when you see people dropping $100 on like 4 LPs and then the same amount on a crappy turntable to play them on, I don't know. And then when I get complaints, and I'll see complaints, this is maybe a bad example because this is definitely not a normal record listening fan, but we did a Rick and Morty box set that was like battery powered and lit up and super complicated and annoying for a million different reasons. But we actually got complaint emails from people when the battery died, and we were like, oh, well, you're in luck. We actually made the batteries replaceable. And they're like, yeah, but I'd have to open the shrink wrap to change the battery, and I'm not willing to do that. I was like, well, what did you think? There was a nuclear reactor in there that would power this thing forever? Like, of course the batteries don't last forever. But they're like people who were upset that, that they'd have to open it just to change the batteries, which that's crazy to me too.
Actually, that leads into good customer service. I mean, we've all gotten a million my record doesn't play and they're on a Crosley and it has an internal speaker and they're turned all the way up and it's going all over the place. One of the questions we just got is, for small companies, we have 3 full-time employees at the label. The decision to add another DTC channel is difficult. We're able to handle fulfillment, but customer service across all the different platforms, Shopify, eBay, PayPal, Discogs, can be really tough. What are some ways you think about the cost and benefit of being on multiple platforms? I think, you know, customer service, no matter what you do, is always a big issue. We could probably all go through all the weirdest questions we've got from people. Got some super weird ones. And investing across these platforms, I still think it's worthwhile. I think customer service is just part of what you do. It just has to be baked into your plan, because especially if you manufacture records, I'm sure Sean has gotten his fair share of labels complaining about something, or someone's, you know, this is this is that, this doesn't play, it's at the wrong speed. When you're working with physical products, customer service should be a cornerstone of your DTC channel, because people are going to have questions.
Yeah, we kind of obsess over Discogs in a almost unhealthy way. So.
Yeah, and I guess as everyone's contemplating their D2C options, knowing that, you know, someone like Discogs is here doing one thing. That's making sure that records are landing in collectors' hands, right? So we're not eBay in the sense that you can also buy some hand sanitizer for $300 and, you know, a Joey Votto jersey, right? So we have record buyers coming from record sellers, and that's it. So hopefully the customer service there is less because you have a qualified buyer there, right? So that, you know, that's, you know, speaking to us personally, you know, that's feels like an easy decision, but, you know, if you're looking at several different platforms, then it's, you know, you just basically got to look at overall ROI. It's like, what am I gaining by selling on X platform? Is it more headaches than, you know, revenue? Then, you know, just kind of start balancing that out.
I totally echo that, for sure. There's a reason why we've been sticking with only vinyl, and it's, you know, it's hard enough to get that one thing really right. And a lot of people kind of attribute Qrates to like the UI and the UX and stuff like that. But internally, I think where we really shine is the customer service, and that's really the flesh and the meat and the bones of what makes this work.
I'm not sure how long this panel is supposed to go. I don't know if Alyssa will tell us. Let's see.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
We're technically slated to run until 4 o'clock. Anybody who wants to keep tuning in can, but we can totally cut it now, guys.
Okay, let me see if we've, oh, Peter, who asked the distro question, missed the answer, and he's wondering if this will be available for viewing later.
Yes, we're going to archive every session that we have, and it'll go right up onto our YouTube, and we'll message that out after this as well.
Cool. Peter, if you saw that, there you go. Otherwise, I think that we have, oh, wait.
The person who wanted to know when we think touring will happen again, my guess is
Oh, yeah.
February
Of next year.
Yeah.
We're seeing, I've had a tour get rescheduled for December. I'm not sure if that will happen. I have a lot of bookers who are saying like that they're clearing dates for March 2021 to start touring again. I think we'll just need to watch it. It's really hard to have a concrete answer about touring.
Yeah, the venue is all over the map, and I think that it's going to be a state-by-state thing, and I think it's also going to be a venue size thing. I think we'll see smaller rooms open before we see larger rooms open, or, you know, festivals come back. So there's obviously a lot of factors, and plus you have like the mayor of LA saying there's no way we're doing stadium events until next year, and so that ends up weighing on people's minds of like, whoa, I guess I shouldn't try to book that tour in November. Plus, it sounds like a lot of the promoters are changing the rules because they're anticipating things being pretty sketchy with the live market in the near to long-term future. So you're seeing dramatic reductions in the guarantees for bands, which will impact some bands' willingness to tour. They're shifting to all door deals in a lot of cases, which, not to get in the weeds of that sort of stuff, but there's a lot of weird stuff going on that's going to be difficult to navigate even when the laws change and allow for touring to happen again.
And we have one last question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was getting ready just to add on that. If there's a way that any of you, including ourselves in this conversation, can somehow support those local venue owners, they're in desperate need. Some of them may not make it till 2021 to be there for us. So that's the scary part for me. It's like, what will that landscape look like if the rooms aren't there?
Yeah, and it's hard to get those spaces back, right? Because for all of us out there, there's, some sociopath, wealthy person who's looking at this opportunity and is just eagerly waiting to buy up these bankrupt spaces and turn them into more apartments and condos. I promise you that is happening all over the world right now.
Oh, look, Amoeba in LA is going to be a condo or a high rise in, a couple of months. It's not, it's gross.
Yes, but they are moving spaces.
They are.
There was an AV Club article earlier, and I found the headline very misleading, and I got a bunch of messages from people thinking they're closing forever.
No.
They're not. They're just moving, and they won't be reopening their sunset spot, but they're working on their new spot. For any Amoeba fans watching, they'll be back. We have one more question, and then we'll call it a day. As someone who is in the process of delving into vinyl, should we postpone this until after the current situation has stabilized? We are a label that has been 100% digital up to this point, and while we've had fans showing interest in us printing, we're concerned that in this climate, obtaining traction in this audience will be difficult. It's a great question.
Sounds perfect for Qrates.
Yeah, I was just about to say. You should look up Qrates.
Yeah, most of a lot of our artists are first-time vinyl pressers and are 100% digital, come to Qrates and, try out the waters. It's crowdfunding allows you to do that with zero money up front. Happy to, give you some of the details on how it works after the call. Please reach out.
Cool. And
okay. Is that it, Pam?
That's it.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for taking time out today to chat with all of us. This was by far one of our most successful webinars yet, so really appreciate that.